Ready?
Right.
I'll call this meeting of the General Government and Finance Committee to order at 5:31 p.m. This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with Section 19.83 and 19.84 Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. Roll call. All members are present except for Trustee Kaminsky, who is excused. And with that, we will move on to citizen input. Please be advised that do we have a timer?
Adhere to 4 minutes.
I
I can send my phone.
right now.
Okay, sounds good. So we will, please try to keep your comments to 4 minutes while you're up here. Can we get the podium moved? And anybody wishing to speak, please come forward.
Some of this I don't understand, and I got it late, but hold on, I gotta get my glasses. What I like to know is, we're having assessment service done and we're doing a contract renewal. I don't know what that means, but if this is the same people that did our appraisals of our home, I'm very questionable on this group period. They made a huge mistake on mine and some other people's also. I think we need a little more hands-on look at it. And market adjustment to a salary of the finance director. I don't think any salaries should be adjusted at all until we have a budget. I think our employees are very well paid and we are really on a tight budget. Until we get a budget that our board can follow and go after, nothing should be raised with anybody. And when I looked at some of those, I like to get those salaries of some of those people. And why are we doing an assessment service now before we have a budget? And there's just a lot of things that are in question here. And so I think that government has jurisdiction. You should, if you're going to have another closed session, there's nothing wrong with having an open meeting on considering employment and your rules and stuff. When it comes to salary, I think this should be put on hold. I don't think there's any reason anybody should have anything increased. I don't know why you think we have to. We're in a horrible budget. And I've been looking at what businesses are going down again, and it's not good out there. And I think we need to put a hold on this spending right now for our whole board here in our community and watch where we're spending our money. I think we've been too easy under the old leader, and I think we need to stop. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else for public comment?
Good evening, Melanie Smythe, N140W17938 Cedar Lane. I just have a couple of observations and some questions about some of the information that has been presented in the audit and in preparation for the budget coming up. So the whole question about the higher MMSD fees that were unexpected came up. And that prompted me to go and look at their website and see what's going on with them. And it looks to me like they're starting this really intensive capital intensive spending spree on various projects. And so I would suggest that maybe we reach out to them and find out if this unexpectedly high level of fees is going to be a continuing thing in the future. And the reason why I think that's important is because in reviewing something to do with the state budget with the Wisconsin Policy Forum. They were talking about how in this current budget cycle, there's still something like $2 billion that will get pushed out for transportation funds. But this may be the last cycle for that, because they will basically paying down that fund that has been coming out of, that we've been receiving monies from over the last few years, and they are spending that fund down. So there's some caution about what's going on with the state fund balances in the future. So I'm suggesting that somebody look at that. Okay, so my questions. In TID 8, there was a grant for $1 million. And I don't recall where that came from. So I think it would be good if there was a footnote or something in the report as an explanation of what the source of that was. And why would a grant go into a TID unless it was requested by the TID? Would it not be better to go directly into a general fund for immediate capital use? Anyway, just a question. The other question that I have is on the administration and in the TIDs and salaries. And the question there is, are those salary costs factored in when to the allowable levy increase that comes up when the TID ends? So if at some point someone could explain that, that would be really helpful. Also, why does TID 9 have so much administration costs, since nothing much has been happening over there? Let's see. Regarding the contracts, there was I noticed a contract for application for a railroad crossing for $7,500. And then in the later tonight, they'll be looking at the sewer pact language and that as it affects the Muni code, and everything to do with the railroad was removed from there. So if that means that the railroad crossing is going away, does that mean that this contract should just be voided because we are not doing a railroad crossing? And and what other contracts like that may there be going into the budget time frame, so that we don't have to placehold this money for something that we're not going to use it for. Regarding the request for increase in salary for the finance director, just a couple of questions. One is, what is the average length of experience for the other municipal finance directors? That wasn't listed in there. And then the other comment is, in the past, when it's something like this comes up so close to budget time, it's just been put off until budget time. So why are we doing it now? Those are my comments. Thanks.
All right, thank you for your comments.
Sarah Larson, Butternut Road. The first item that I want to touch on is the audio visual and the potential changes of not having channel 25. I think, granted, there was some data in the packet, and I realized we're spending a lot of money on that equipment, but maybe a good metric to look at is Spectrum would be able to tell you how many subscribers Germantown has within the cable package to pay for that channel. Like, we have Spectrum, but we don't pay for that channel. And knowing that Germantown has an older community, to reasonably see, is that affecting 50% of the Spectrum subscribers or only 20%? I think that would be making a more informed decision that way, because you could significantly be impacting a population that may not be tech savvy to be able to get this in other means. The other item I wanted to comment on is the market adjustment to salary. Matthew has been doing great. We're seeing some strides here. We actually had the audit in time. So, you know, this is the feedback isn't anything about his performance. I don't think we should be looking at this. This is almost an 18% increase and to only be voted on by this committee. I think an increase in salary for an administrator should go before the full board. I also feel as though, oh, sorry.
Wrong
It-
timer.
Yeah. Looking truly at what the comparable levels of experience are. I know Matthew walked into a bad situation with the technology failures, which caused some things. And so like the metrics saying that our audit was less expensive now, well, you benchmark against 2 years that were still on the heels of the technology failures. So how did that impact the cost of the audit in comparison when you look at what those costs were pre-issues? So I think I could see maybe giving him a one-time bonus of maybe $3,000 or $5,000 as a show of good faith for successfully delivering on the audit. But to do this type of increase, knowing where we stand budget-wise, I couldn't support that. And I would recommend then, if you want something like this, that you defer to the full board. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else that wants to make public comments? All right, if not, we will move on to consent agenda. There's only one piece for consent agenda, and that's the minutes from June 16th. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm going back to citizen input. I do have some emails to read. They are all from Mr. and Mrs. Schneider. And, okay, don't time me on this. Hello, trustees. When you are discussing the topic of cable channel, we would like you to know the exact number of residents who watch and use channel 25. Don't think that we are the only ones watching on cable. It was mentioned in the agenda about the Americans who use and view cable and streaming. It was not mentioned to the residents in the village of Germantown who use and watch channel 25 or how many are streaming. Also, please remember, if you click on YouTube, it shows the number of viewers, but someone could click more than once and the count keeps going up for viewers. Point is, you don't have all the information in front of you to discuss and maybe a decision, what should be done. Another thing, once again, you are assuming that everyone has a computer and or cell phone and or a device to connect their TV to watch. Remember, this was recently pointed out by a trustee. Their neighbor does not have a cell phone. Please don't assume no one knows what residents do or do not have. Another point, we have notices in the village such as the cable issue back in 21 was the first time anything was done for an update to the system. Or was installed back in 2000. Just like everything else, the village waits until it needs repairs or it is totally falling apart. Example, police department building was told in recent email it should have been replaced 25 years ago. Then now add on the updates to the fire department or the new fire department station. We have chosen cable to watch and view the village meetings. Our choice, not the village choice for us. We pay for it. Then if you as trustees decide to push it forward to the village board to just have streaming, who will pay for the device so we can watch on TV? We have a budget and stick to it. Not starting at a computer screen or not staring at a computer screen, watching not great for your health either. Remember how long your meetings can run too. Last village board meeting was over at midnight. This was not the first for that either. Yes, you know I will stay up and watch the whole thing. Please remember who pays for all the wanted new items in the village, the taxpayers. Email 2, forgot to mention communication. Very important to have communication for the residents. We know all about the communication in the village needs a lot of improvement, no matter the cost. We are paying for it in taxpayers. If this is how we want to watch, so be it. Next email, again from the Schneiders. Mr. Krecklow, let us say first, we are making sure you receive this email before 4 p.m. cutoff time. Make note of the time we are sending this email to you and others. Would you please go back and give the proper information to the committee about the cable issue? We were told you would be given this information out. You made a general statement in the agenda about the use of cable channels by Americans who use the cable and who issue streaming. Yes, things are changing in this world, but we should be able to make our choices. We don't need you and or the committee to make this choice for us. You didn't give the total numbers of the viewers that use cable here in the village and or how many residents on YouTube or WebEx. This is very important. Remember, not everyone has cell phone and a computer in their home. Once again, the village government is telling the residents how they can view the meetings. How do you expect the members of GGF committee to make a decision on a very important issue? Just by the dollars amount you listed in the agenda? Yes, spending needs to be cut, but not this. This should be a total board vote on this issue. Remember, communication is very important. To get it out to all the residents, this is still an ongoing issue in the village. Also, we noticed a couple of weeks ago on Channel 25 Weekly Information how the meetings listed could be viewed. It went from available on Channel 25 to now streamed on Channel 25. Interesting. Oh, by the way, whoever turns 25 back on after the meetings, they don't always remember to turn the channel 25 back on. We notice if you watch YouTube, it shows a number of viewers. This changes every time when someone does watch and or turn it off and they go back on. It increases the numbers. So that is not the true reading of the users. But what do we know? There is one more, but that's a village board meeting item, so I'm going to forego the reading of that one. So was there any other correspondence? Okay, no problem. Great, thank you. Okay, so we'll move on now to consent agenda item A, minutes of June 16th, 2025.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from June 16th, 2025.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just before you move on, I apologize, I should have thought of this at the call to order. I wanted to real quickly introduce to the committee Gosha Wormsbacher, who is our new support services manager. And she has been here just 3 weeks now, 3 weeks. So she's sitting in and catching up, transitioning in. So just wanted to introduce her and welcome her to Germantown.
Well, welcome.
Welcome.
Yeah, great. Great, thanks, Steve. We have no unfinished business, so we'll move on to new business.
Point of order.
Yeah.
I would like to make a motion to go through all new business items and reports and take item new business F as in Frank and move it after. In case we go into closed session, then everything else in front of that will be in open session.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion to move item F. I think that makes sense, that we can take that one last. If we go into closed session, not necessarily, but if we do. So any other discussion?
No.
Great. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed, motion carries. So we'll move on to new business item A, Freistadt Field and Kinderberg Park fencing proposal. And we have Gil Standrich here to discuss it.
Mhm. Good evening. Thank you for having me. Right off the bat, I apologize and like to make a correction in the letter I sent to you. In the top part, it says approval to contract Munson Fence Company. I'm sorry, that was a typo on my part. I'm coming to you to ask for Northway Fence Company to be awarded the contract. This contract would come out of account number 4059100592100. This is a capital land park improvement project that was approved by the board for the 2025 budget for $43,000. Included in your packet is 3 quotes from 3 different fence companies. You have Munson Fence Division, Northway Fencing Company, and Century Fence. The work I would like to do mostly involves Freistadt Field, but it'll involve replacing the backstop, adding an overhang to it, replacing the fencing along the first and third base side. That's 145 feet of chain link fence, and then replacing the current dugouts and putting sunshade screens over them. The fencing is probably as old as the park itself. And over the years, the wear and tear of the fencing, definitely, it needs to be changed. So that's what I'm asking to do tonight. Also at Kinderberg, I'm looking to replace some of the backstop fencing with wire mesh fabric. Also put in new dugouts around the first and third base side, and then include sunshade materials to the dugouts. So I was awarded 43,000, and as you can, if you look at the quotes that were given to me, Northway came in at $41,450.
Okay, and they were the low bidder?
Yes, sir.
Got it. All right, committee?
I make a motion to approve item A, Freistad Field and Kinderberg Park fencing proposal.
I'll second, and I have some questions.
And that is to Northway, right?
Is it to Northway?
Yes, yes, it is.
You said it.
Again, my apology for,
Okay, so we have a motion, discussion. Trustee Jan Miller.
You've got, on the Northway fence, it says Freistadt Field. So is that the field on Freistadt Road, or is it Freedom Field?
no, Freistad is the field that's in Fireman's Park. It's that little
Okay,
T-ball
that's what I
field.
thought.
But
Okay,
it's not only used by Parks and Recreation, but it's also used by Germantown Warhawks, the baseball program as well.
okay, great. Well, it looks like
This would be the far west field, right?
Correct?
In that part.
Yes,
The other two are on school property.
Brown School, right.
okay. Thank you. And the fencing around Kinderberg, is that just the fence?
Because of the money, I wanted to do a mesh overhang for that,
Oh,
but I wasn't able to. But yes, it'll replace the fencing, create a new dugout area with shade, which they haven't had.
okay. And that would be closest to the pavilion? right?
Correct,
Okay,
yes.
at Kinderberg. Okay, great.
Also,
see.
please note that over the last couple of years, the Warhawks program has brought in tournaments to the Germantown area. So these fields are being used and being showcased.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions, comments? This will go to the village board because of the dollar amount, so. All right, so this is the recommendation to the village board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item B, presentation of 2024 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report and Audit Results Report by Baker Tilly. Is Baker Tilly on the line?
So I can start with that one. There was a request to have Baker Tilly come to this GGF meeting to answer any additional questions that the committee may have. Amanda and Leah are both on WebEx and are available to answer any questions that the committee may have regarding the 2024 audit.
Yeah, hi, thank you for having us. We, just want to make sure we're addressing your questions. I just want to make sure, can everyone hear me okay first?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Okay, so we had, or I had come and done a presentation a couple of weeks ago, kind of went through the normal material that we would go through, including the highlights and graphs, which talked about fund balance, general obligation, debt, and the utilities. So instead of going through the same material, I thought I would just open it up for questions at this point if there was anything we wanted to revisit.
Committee, is there anything specific? Yes, trustee Meg Cutts.
I'm not sure if this is for Matthew or Baker Tilly, but in the write-up for what we're talking about, utility depreciation and the capital activity, both reference that As the internal team grows, that you'll take on these tasks internally. What does that mean? What is Baker Tilly doing now that you would take on?
So Baker Tilly assists with much of the utility depreciation and capital asset allocation. As we grow the team here at the Village of Germantown, we'd like, less of their help doing that and really just keep that internally for staff to complete.
Okay, those two accounts I know with last year's audit, 2023, came up as material misstatements. So did we figure out why that happened so it doesn't happen again?
Yep. So for some of those, what happens, whether it be from the utility side or the finance side, are things are getting classified as capital when they're not actually capital, or vice versa. In addition, once we get developer contributed capital, they're doing a lot of that entries for us. So that's the majority of that material change is from the developer contributed capital.
So if you get to the point where you're doing all the depreciation, Baker Tilly would still be looking at all of that in the audit.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
So, staying with that, then you're saying as our internal team continues to grow in technical capacity, is that a program or is that a person?
I wouldn't say it's either. I'd say just as staff, has more time to complete these things internally as we improve our processes to get things from developers in a more timely fashion. As we work closely with engineering to get all this information, we'll be able to handle this ourselves without relying on Baker Tilly to assist with some of these entries.
So was in the engineering having a problem getting information from our developers as well? Do they go source out the information and then you enter the information? I'm trying to understand the
Yep.
process.
So typically what happens, and this is something we've been working on for the 23 audit and 24 audit, is getting all that material information from developers before the year-end close. Typically, over the last couple of years, we've struggled to get that in a timely manner, which just kind of pushes everything back a little bit. This past year, engineering has had better procedures to get that information from developers, and we're starting to include that in any developer handbook that, we require this information, in a timely manner.
So a developer handbook is being put together.
I believe there's one already created. I think they're just making tweaks to it to ensure we get all this utility information.
And when and maybe this is a question for Baker Tilly, I'm not sure. But capital activity on the water and sewer utility, we've got 4 million here on page 2. Is Amanda online? Okay.
Yes, I'm online.
Okay. So what is that a large, that's seems like a huge amount of money to misplace or misallocate. What was the situation there?
What are you referring to? I'm sorry, you said page 2. in the
Capital
document?
activity on page 2 of the summary. Capital activity under water and sewer utility, 4.1 million, call it.
Oh, okay.
It's asset
Okay.
activity.
I see. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, there are significant capital and project costs occurring within the village on an annual basis, and a lot of that does relate to some shared projects that occur within the TID. So we have the TID taking ownership of some of that. We have the water utility and the sewer utility all taking ownerships of parts of those projects. And so a lot of times what happens is those projects get bundled, all the expenses for those projects get paid and recorded in one location. And then it's a matter of going out and determining, well, what share does everyone get on that? And that is an exercise that, you know, is definitely a little bit more complex that we've assisted with in the past, and at least reading the documentation from the engineering firm to be able to do that. So I'm guessing that, you know, any of this capital activity was not necessarily that it wasn't recorded, but was it allocated at the time that we, you know, came in and started our audit? Probably not. It was a work in progress that was determined during the audit process.
So do you remember, do you have the numbers, or maybe Matt does, 4.1 million? Is it all within the TID, which TID? And, or did some of it go someplace else?
No,
Oh, go ahead.
go ahead, Amanda.
I was just going to say that it could be partially TID related, or it could be identification of developer contributions, like Matthew was just speaking about, that would have been identified during the course of the audit. I don't have the specific numbers readily available, though.
Would you know, Matt, or?
Looking at the 4.1 million, that is likely mostly due to some of the sewer utility work in Donjas Bay, sewer and water utility for Donjas Bay Road in TID 9. I'm trying to think what other contributed capital there was in 2024. That's what comes to mind. I can see if I can get some more of that information
Okay,
for you.
that'd be great.
It's new infrastructure, right? That
New
was the
infrastructure for around the DPW. Correct. Okay. And then TID 8, we've got $9 million.
Yep, and I can speak to that one before Leah or Amanda jump in. So when TID 8 was created, there were a plethora of projects that were paid for out of TID 8, including Well 12, Booster Station, a tower, Holy Hill Road. Those are the projects coming to mind. So as those projects were being completed, all of those expenses were charged to TID 8 in the CWIP account. And once those projects were completed, we then allocated those costs out to the water and sewer utilities. As was originally planned for those projects, we just recorded them all in one spot until the project's completed.
Okay. Did you have any other questions? And that's a lot.
Mhm.
Just saying.
That was just
and
an
that-
allocation back to the water and sewer
Right.
utility, so that came out of TID 8, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so that's
And it
a
was
reduction in
supposed to.
TID 8 of $9 million.
And if I could add just some of the history on that, that was what the project plan from
Yeah.
2018 anticipated, that those projects would be allocated out, both a portion paid by TID 8, portion by the utilities.
Okay, and it just happened all in 1 year when it was completed?
So well, the projects were all completed. If you think about out by Holy Hill Road,
Yeah.
the work that's been completed here
Yeah.
over the past year, it all was completed during the same year.
Is that the water tower too?
Yes, the water tower is a big chunk of that.
Okay.
I'll also mention that the 9 million isn't what was essentially moved out of TID 8. It's essentially the sum of the effect of all 3 funds that were listed there. So if we were to look at the report that we provided with that 9 million, it's really the effect of TID 8, TID 7, and the water utility. So really the amount that was removed from TID 8 was around 3 million, but there's an additional 3 or so million effect on water as well. So it's kind of, it's not the amount that was moved, it's kind of the total effect, if that's helpful.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks. Anything else?
No.
I have just a couple questions. So we now have an asset manager, and that has to help with all this valuation on this. Is the first one just identifying assets? Is there valuations going on at the same time?
Yeah, I don't want to speak too much for DPW and their staff, but what Sharon has been working on mostly is updating GIS on the water utility side. So it's meters, mains, curb stops, those types of things, which will in tangent help with the PSC report that we file every year and with the overall audit. So right now she's mostly focused on water utility assets, which as you can see here is where we require the most assistance from Baker Tilly. So there'll be some benefits to that position as we move.
Yeah, I would think once we have the assets identified, then we can put a value on them and know what the depreciation is going to be on an annual basis then.
If I can add, just to, and again, having a little bit more of the history on that. The last time we went through the PSC with a rate case, one of their findings was that we had some deficiencies in our records on historical assets. So if you go back into the 90s, 80s, 70s, 60s, even back into the 50s, the PSC expects us to have, data on what was constructed and what the construction cost was, and to accumulate those over time. So that's a big part of what Sharon has been working on is gathering all of that old information and trying to put it in a format that's acceptable to the PSC, and that will help with some of the future reporting. And just echoing Matthew's costs, I think DPW's done a really good job of adjusting their processes to try to get developers to get that asset information in earlier, and kind of withholding some things that the developers need from us until we get that information as.
Okay.
So I think we've seen some improvement there. Have to give DPW some credit for that.
Okay, thanks. The other question I had was on the ARPA. So as that gets spent, then it becomes, it gets reclassified, is that right? So every year, whatever is spent on ARPA funds, does that get reclassified? There was a $603,000.
Yeah, so what that was is we had that in a deferred revenue account. We should have made a journal entry just recognizing that revenue, and we didn't. So that's what that entry was for.
That's the total amount of ARPA funds we got?
No, the total amount we would have received
I thought
through
it
the
was
course is 2.1 million. This was just an entry that had ARPA funds sitting in deferred revenue, and we should have recognized the revenue.
just reclassifying it. Okay. All right, thanks. That's all the questions I have. Anything else? All right, thank you much. Thanks
Again,
for coming on.
I just want to thank Lee and Amanda and their team for all the work they do on behalf of the village. For the last couple of years, we've been working to get to a place where we can get the audit done in a more timely fashion. And a lot of the credit goes to Amanda and Lee and their team. They're great partners and do a good job.
Great. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item C, assessment services contract renewal with Associated Appraisals. And who has background on this one?
I can kick this one off. In your packet is a recommended contract with Associated Appraisals for a 3-year contract with Associated Appraisals for assessment years 26, 27, and 28. The current agreement ends with assessment year 2025, which is what we're currently in. We reached out to Associated Appraisals to see what a new contract would look like. And they provided about a 5.5% increase over the previous agreement for $90,000 a year. Given, the modest increase compared to where where we were, in 2020 and where this will take us through 2028 assessment year, we didn't see the value in going out for RFP at this time.
So here's my background on this, and I don't know if either one of you were on the board, but we had a previous appraiser, I think it was Advanced, was called, and they got us in trouble with the state. They weren't filing on time. It was kind of a bad situation. Associated came into again, bad situation. We did withhold some payments to Advanced to pay for the oversight. And that is why we ultimately hired Associated Appraisal coming on. I wouldn't say the only other, but the other large assessment company in the area is Catalyst, used to be Grota, and that's out of Menominee Falls. And I guess if this committee or the board decides to go for an RFP, we could do that. I don't know that it's going to be much of an effect, but it is possible. I think these are pretty modest increases myself, but that's my opinion.
Were you going to say something? I was just going to point out that I understand what you're saying, Rick. I was vaguely aware of the other company that got us into issues, but is there really only one other company?
No, there's not only one. That's the other larger
That you know.
company in this area
Ah.
that does several municipalities.
Um,
No, there are others, of course.
Okay. So, my feeling is this, I think that since we're in a tight budget season, $5,000 or 5.5% increase is worth taking a look at. If we haven't really looked at it in 5 years, maybe there are other companies out there, and it's due process. So I think an RFP, it's something that we had to do when we used it the other time, maybe, polish it up, send it out, see what happens. Maybe nobody wants to do assessments. I can hardly believe that, but you don't know. And maybe there's a possibility that we do a 2-year contract or a 1-year contract this time around, just if we find another capable company. I mean, they have to be able to do the same thing. And if they're not doing the same thing, then
If
That's-
I could just
Sure.
just respond to that, I think there are two major there are the two major firms here, including our current vendor who are highly qualified to do this work. There may be some smaller ones out there that people who are kind of independent and do this work. Either they're retired or maybe they do it on the side from other jobs that they have. But I think for finding a firm that's qualified to do the type of work that Germantown needs and trying to avoid the situation that we ran into back in 2017, I think, I would recommend going with one of these two firms. And I think there's a higher possibility that if we go out to bid, we end up with more of an increase than we have here than less of an increase. I think that they haven't increased their rates at all since 2020, and they're proposing a total of a 5.5% increase for 3 years. That's less than 2% per year. And I think there are very few contracts that people are getting renewed at this point for any service that are under 2% per year for increases.
We should mention that this isn't a reassessment of the village either. This is ongoing work. So any building permit, any new construction, any changes to an assessment, that's what they would do on a yearly basis, or that's what this contract is about, not a reassessment of the village.
Good point. I would think that if we had more bidders, that it would be more competitive. And we clearly have time because this contract doesn't go, it's through the end of the year. We're in July.
I think oftentimes you can negotiate a lower rate with a contractor, giving them the option to avoid a bid. And they may say, I'll give you a lower rate, a deal, a bargain, if you sign the extension. If we don't sign the extension and we go through an RFP process, and in the interim, while we're going through the process, they may sign an extension with other communities and charge us a higher rate, because if you're looking at it like a business, businesses they'll try to make sure that their staff is fully occupied, like they've covered their expenses, and give more competitive rates in order to make sure they have enough revenue to cover their expenses. Once they get to a point where they've done that, and now maybe their staff are fully utilized, they'll start to charge higher rates. And I think there's a strong possibility that if you go out for an RFP, that you will end up with a higher increase than the 5.5% for 3 years that you have before you.
So Steve, they're holding the price at 90,000 per year
Correct.
for 3 years. Okay. I mean, I'll ask for a recommendation, whatever you guys want to do.
Well, I just have one question. In the contract at the end, page 27, there's optional website posting, and we don't have an initial yes or no. Do we do that where our information is on their website also for people to find?
It is now. Yeah, I've been on there many times.
Okay, I just didn't know because that was left blank. Well, it's an action item, so we need to do some kind of a, yeah,
You.
correct. So, I will make a motion to approve assessment services contract renewal for associated appraisals.
All right, I will second. Further discussion?
Well, I'd like to go out for an RFP. I'd like to amend it to get an RFP.
I'll second that for discussion. So I have a question. If we do that, where we also go up for the RFP, how long is this contract price good for?
Yeah, what did they write it up for?
Because it would take a while to get an RFP together and get everything in.
Yeah,
So
how
then
would that work?
it's
If they
expired.
go out for RFP, then this is null and void, right?
I don't
Then they're
think,
just gonna bid.
I think it's an either or. I think it's either we accept this contract proposal
Yeah.
or we go out for an RFP. And don't get me wrong, I'm giving you my recommendation, but if it's the will of the board that we go out for an RFP, we'll do that, and we'll try to get the best price we can.
Did they come to us or did we go to them for this contract?
No, I reached out to them knowing
Contracts up.
that the
in-
contract's up at the end of the year.
Right, understood. Okay. So did you notice any differences between this contract and the last one, Matt?
No, the only major difference is the state of Wisconsin got rid of the personal property tax and assessment, so they just removed any language regarding that.
If
Yeah.
we,
Is for, to go out to RFP, does that have to be approved by the village board, or only if we accept this contract? Because that does have to be approved by the village board.
Right.
I would say, I mean, the item that you have before you, if you vote on a motion to approve the contract, if you reject the motion to approve the contract, I think it would still go to the board, but with a negative recommendation.
Gotcha.
If you would pass a motion directing staff to issue an RFP, that would be that would not have to go to the board.
Because we have to get more information.
Right. Okay, I got it. So we have an amended motion to go out for RFP for assessment or for assessment services to the village. Any other discussion on that? So we'll vote on that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So that motion fails 2-1. And we are on to back to the original motion to move this on to the village board with a positive recommendation for associated appraisal. Any further discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 2-1. So that'll go on to the village board. All right, thank you. Next item. Item D, tax increment districts, state report PE 300. And this will be a presentation by Matthew. Is that right?
Yep, just in your packet is included the 4 state reports for our 4 active tax increment districts. This was a request we put on the agenda. So I just want to provide a little bit more information on that report. So each year, each municipality is required to complete that report for all the active tax increment districts within their municipal boundaries. Looking at the TIDs, all the TIDs did relatively well in 2024. TID 8 saw the biggest swing in fund balance. That is largely due to the allocating out of costs from the water and sewer utility that were originally in TID 8. Looking at all of the TIDs throughout the village, they're all expected to end with a surplus by their close date. With TID 8 certainly being the largest, around 50 million in surplus by 2032.
So question, when you say surplus though, I mean, that's where the districts can decide to close it early, correct? If we have enough money to pay everything off.
Right. Likely they would not actually realize a surplus of $50 million. It would be closed
Sure.
early. Yeah.
Yeah, it would close and get it on the tax rolls. Yep. Okay, questions about it?
On page 31, Matthew,
Mhm.
where it's kind of a total for all 4 TIDs, the new construction increase, decrease, prior year correction, and then the right column is TID net new construction of 78 million. Does that net new construction go towards the tax levy? Or not because it's in the TID?
It could go towards the tax levy if the village board, adopts the full net new construction that they're eligible for. So this is included in the overall net new construction number. Now, whether if the village board decides to, take that allocation is up to each municipality.
Okay, I guess I'm a little confused on that because when the TIDs are presented, it's always as there's nothing that affects the taxpayer, but then this is contributing to our tax levy every year, depending on what the growth is.
That is, so it is net new construction is a calculation of what the village board is allowed to increase the property tax levy. And construction within tax increment districts is included in net new construction. So when we go through the budget process, and as we've presented this in the past, and we'll present it this way in the future as well, we'll identify, okay, how much of the net new construction is in the TIDs, how much of the net new construction is out of the TIDs. And it's really up to the village board. It gives you the flexibility to increase the property tax levy by the total. You're not required to increase the property tax levy by the total.
Okay, and then JW Speaker, I know there's something where they were behind on something in their deal. Have they caught up or what's going on with that?
I actually talked with the village attorney about this a little bit further last week. There's 2 different components of their development agreement. One is a guarantee of increment that would be created by certain dates. And they did not meet those dates. Now, it looks like, and this is what I'm asking the village attorney to check, it looks like they've met that at this point, which would mean that for the past 3 years, there's a set dollar amount that we would adjust for. We also have what's called a municipal revenue obligation as part of that development agreement. And basically, what that relates to is that when we negotiated the development agreement, JW Speaker constructed the road and the sewer and water that go from their facility west out to Goldendale Road. And they paid for that upfront with the commitment from the village that we would pay them back after there was sufficient cash flow in the TID. So we've been holding that payment to them pending, the outcome of what these numbers look like when they're finalized. And then we'll have a discussion with JW Speaker. There may be payments from JW Speaker into the TID. It may just be a cancellation of obligations. So in other words, it might end up, they owe us $100 and we owe them $100 and it gets canceled. So we're working through that. I'm working through that with the village attorney, and we've had ongoing discussions with JW Speaker about that as well.
Okay, so if they would owe money, whatever the amount would be, and we would decide we want to collect that instead of waiting until the end to do this offset, then that would get invested and we'd be earning money on the investment, correct?
Yes, yes, and I guess the same would be true for our municipal revenue obligation. Since we're holding that, we're earning money on investments because we're holding that cash instead of turning that over to JW Speaker. So, but you're correct. It works both ways.
I guess I would just request that if it's a large amount, you bring that back for us to consider collecting on it versus waiting.
Well, when we get further through that analysis, before there's any finalized agreement, it'll go to the village board.
Thank you.
Yeah, trustee Jan Miller.
To that, is there going to be a legal document or is there already a legal document about this paying for the road and then it's in the TID, the verbiage?
Yeah, that was already part of the original.
Yeah, and
Okay,
that was part of
that
the
was
original
before my
development
time,
agreement.
So, okay, so that's in the developers agreement
Yeah.
or the TID?
The
Okay,
developers agreement.
okay. So any paperwork before it's signed has to come to the village board, correct?
Correct. This would be either an MOU or an amendment to probably an amendment to the developers agreement. And that would go to the village board for approval.
Okay. But if we say you need to pay the money that you owe, that stays within the TID, it pays it down, correct?
Correct.
That's a good idea. And then I was surprised to see that, yeah, there wasn't much activity on 9. Expenditures 1.2. Let's talk about administration. So I just want to understand if I understand this right. Administration is, why don't you explain it, Matt?
So administration is mostly comprised of salaries and benefits, legal fees, and then every year there is a fee to the state for reports regarding the TIDs. So that's the biggest cost for administration. Most of it is salary and benefits, a little bit of legal fees. If there are any amendments to the TIDs, fees associated with the amendments get charged to administration. The bulk of administration is salary and benefits.
I thought you had a separate line item for professional services. Wouldn't that be legal services? Or isn't there a line item for legal services?
There's not a specific line item for legal services. If we have like outside professional help, if we hire a different legal firm or if there's some specific engineering services we need, we would charge those there. But in general, most goes to general administration.
Okay, I'm seeing closing TID 9 in 2042.
That's as far as it can go, right?
Mhm.
That's mandatory.
Yeah, I believe the TID was created in 2022, and the mandatory close is 2042.
Do you have an estimate of if it's going to close earlier?
That was presented by
And this is
Taylor's
20.
in their TID presentation. I don't remember the
There,
year.
it depends on development and
Yeah,
when that
estimated.
development occurs and how much the value is. The 2042 estimate was based just on the one building that's up right now, that F Street had constructed. There's space for two other smaller buildings that are not included in that calculation. And the village board amended the TID and included the Sterling Pharmaceutical property. And there's a project there that if it does go forward, that would shorten the life of the TID too. So those are all things that could happen to, move that 2042 date earlier.
Has anyone checked with Sterling Pharma because this has been going on for over a year?
Yeah, I think they're waiting to see what happens with tariffs. I think like a lot of development, it's kind of, there's a lot of uncertainty about, particularly with pharmaceuticals. Both tariffs that the US may charge and tariffs that foreign countries may charge. And I think that they're on hold. I did not hear this directly from Sterling Pharma, but talking with Kristen Cheshlock, I think this project, like some other development projects, they're just waiting to see how, over the course of the next few months, how the tariff situation shakes out.
Well, I noticed that we have continue to have increases in the administrative fees. And I hope that doesn't continue, so that I don't see an advantage. Matt?
Two points. There hasn't been any changes in allocations of salaries to the TIDs in a while. The minor increases you see are just general salary and benefits increasing. What we like to do periodically is look at the time spent. I'll use myself as an example. The time I spent working on TID-related projects and allocating a portion of my salary to that TID. So that's why you see the allocations to those TIDs. Whether there's a benefit or not, I guess I would say that the benefit is to the general fund, as it's not paying, the time I spend on tax increment districts. The TIDs are paying for that portion of my salary. So there is a benefit to the general fund.
Is that variable or is that a fixed percentage that you allocate?
Yeah, it depends on the person. So I don't recall what mine is specifically, but I think I shouldn't say most of my largest of all my TID allocations, my largest is for TID 8 that has the most, action going on. But it varies by person.
Okay.
But the amount of people that when you started 4 years ago, I bet, I thought there was 7, now there's like 12, at least 12 people.
More, yes, that is likely true in some of the TIDs with the additional staff in the engineering department. So allocating a portion of their time to the tax increment districts.
And when the TID closes, those salaries will have to come back to the village.
Correct, yes.
So right now, it's approximately, give or take, $300,000.
That sounds about
All
correct.
more.
Yes, that sounds about correct.
I did have one more question. So when the TIDs close and the salaries come back onto like each regular department, how will that affect the budget?
It will.
Unbalanced.
Can I-
You wanna go first?
Yeah, I'll just say, well, there will be an increase in the budget, but the other thing that will happen when the TIDs close is that tax base will come onto the general fund tax levy as well. So, we're talking about like when TID 8 closes, $300 million in tax base that will come back onto the, be subject to the general fund levy. So I think that would be even keeping the tax rate the same, so no one else gets affected, would the amount of taxes that amount of property value would generate would be much greater than the salaries that would come onto the.
All right,
onto the
thank you.
budget.
Yeah, so you're collecting the taxes now and that goes on to the levy. The other thing I wanted to mention is that net new construction. In my tenure here on the board, we have used it in some years and we have not used it in some years. So it's all dependent on the budget constraints and, you know, what we want to spend or what gets approved. So the staff usually gives us both those numbers and shows us both of those. And then we can decide what we want to do.
Yeah, I'll just echo that. The first 2 years I was part of the budget process, the village board did not take the net new construction related to the tax increment districts. The last 2 years, the village board did and allocated that increase in taxes to public safety positions. So.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
If I could just, one other thing I wanted to mention, I wasn't sure if you guys were wrapping up or not, but question came up in public comment about the grant for Holy Hill Road reconstruction in TID 8. And I wanted to just clarify that. So we did receive a grant from the state of roughly $1 million for the reconstruction of Holy Hill Road from Goldendale to Highway 41. I believe that was a HISSIP grant, if I remember correctly. But the grant from the state was on a reimbursable basis. So we had to reconstruct the road and complete all payments and then submit paperwork to the state of Wisconsin, and then they reimbursed us the $1 million. So the TID 8 paid for the reconstruction, including the $1 million that we eventually were reimbursed from the grant. So that's why when we received the grant funds, they were put back into TID 8 as a revenue to make TID 8 whole.
Right. Any other discussion or questions on tax increment districts? All right, if not, we'll move on to item E, discussion on the broadcast of village board and committee meetings and potential changes in 2026 budget. The only thing I want to mention is that this is not just Channel 25. This is discussing the recording of other meetings along with a possibility of how we're going to broadcast. Right, so Steve, go ahead.
All right, thank you. And let me say that a couple of just comments first. One, I think it is a really good idea to reach out to Spectrum as we continue to have this discussion. This is for discussion purposes only, no decision to be made tonight, and see what other information Spectrum can give us, and we'll reach out and make that contact and see what other data we can get from them. That I think that would be helpful as the board makes some decisions. But what I was trying to do here was just frame a decision for the board, a discussion, and eventually a decision for the board about how to address how we're publicizing our meetings to the Germantown residents. And historically, that was done using Channel 25. Obviously, there's a lot of changes in media and technology over the past 25 years since this room was constructed and Channel 25 was set up. We've seen that with the equipment in the back room and some of the challenges that we've had. For those of you who have been on the board for a while, you know that we've had a number of technology issues that have come up. We replaced all of the hardware in this room. You know, these monitors, the monitors on the wall, the cameras, the microphones, back in 2021. And they were all set up so that we were able to stream meetings, and since that was during COVID, so that both members of the village board and members of the public could communicate online if they wanted to. So which is kind of a relative, I don't want to say unique feature, but not a common feature in municipalities that, we offer the ability for people, for residents who want to participate in a meeting to be able to go onto WebEx and log in and participate remotely if they're not able to be here in person. So that is a feature that we do offer that a lot of municipalities don't. There have been hiccups with this, some challenges. I think that some of those challenges have to do with, if I can borrow a phrase from the Bible, putting new wine into an old wineskin. It's we're connecting 2025 technology with 2001 technology, and there have been some pieces that have failed and some things that we've had to improve over the years and have included some cost numbers there. In addition, having all of those features makes it a little bit more complicated, quite a bit more complicated for people to operate, and increases the risk that somebody does something incorrectly and it breaks something, and you noticed in the public comment, I think it was in one of the public comment emails tonight, or somebody forgets to push a button at the end of the meeting, and the announcements that go on Channel 25 don't get back on. So I think that there are some things that the village board could consider. I think, a question for you to consider is whether or not you want to continue to utilize Channel 25 going forward. There would be some cost avoidance to that of future repairs to Channel 25 that are likely gonna come up. I can't tell you specifically what those would be or how much they would cost, but just based on experience for the past 5 years, I think it's likely that those expenses will continue into the future. Another question is whether or not you want to expand the number of meetings that are broadcast from just the village board, the 3 standing committees, and the plan commission to include other bodies that meet in this room. Economic Development Commission, Tourism Commission, Utility Advisory Committee are a few that come to mind. One thing that I think would make it easier from a perspective to do that is if the system was a little bit simpler and did not include 25, I'd feel more comfortable, and I think the people who are operating the systems would be more comfortable that just having someone who can go back into the back room and turn on the streaming service and make that available. Doesn't mean we can't do Channel 25 and streaming for those other meetings, but we would want to have some other staff available to assist with that while those broadcast on both in the future. So be helpful to get feedback. Again, don't need a decision tonight. We can gather some more information and come back at a future meeting, but I think this would be something for the board to consider during the budget process this year.
All right, committee.
I think we can't really make a decision as far as Channel 25 or cable till we get more information.
If how many people actually use it to see what kind of that effect would be. And my thought on if you have the multiple different ones and the problem seems to be how it's resetting back, I think it would just be as simple as having a process that's all written on paper and who's ever back there has to go through the steps every time. As far as the meetings, I think we should broadcast, if we can, broadcast everything that happens in this room. That's just my opinion.
I could just answer the one question about the rules. We do have that. Haven't looked at it in a while. 5, 6, 7 pages long, and we do have, there's multiple steps. It's if you've ever put something together from IKEA, I'd say it's the instructions are, along those lines. And some staff have picked this up very quickly and are able to do it. Some of the other folks who staff different committees they struggle with it a little bit more and don't feel as confident and comfortable with using the technology and doing that. And you know, we continue to work with them, but not everyone who's staffing the committees has the same level of technological expertise and comfort level.
You know, Meg? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think this is a very important discussion. I agree with Trustee Cutts that we don't know what, you put a couple of numbers in here about Channel 25. What we need to know is who's using it. What is our investment in this? And, you know, maybe we can find out why, maybe we can, I don't know, do we update the system? Does
From if they're not able to work with the system that we have, what do they have? Maybe they have something updated. I don't know, but it's a spectrum question. I was just at the senior center. We had a meeting. We're looking to update their technology. And all of a sudden the TV didn't work. Come to find out, nobody paid the spectrum bill
from the village. So what is happening for us as trustees and staff to expect the person that's coming in to take responsibility of the notes of these meetings, important meetings, to run back to the room and look through 6 pages and figure out how to work that equipment is ridiculous. It's not right. For example, the school district, if you go to their meetings, they have one capable person that just tapes everything. They don't have big monitors like we do. We have a really nice system, and all we need is consistency. We have a goal of being transparent and being more communicative to the residents of the village of Germantown, and this is how we can start. So I think we need to offer any of the meetings on recorded. I have to wait. It means that if I want to know what happened in the meeting last week, I have to wait a month, if it's only a monthly meeting, to actually see, you know, the meeting or go on YouTube and take the notes. So I think that, but if it's not recorded, I can't do that. Then I have to wait till the next month to get the meeting minutes. There's nothing but pluses by recording. It's transparency, it's communication. It is possible. We do record several of the meetings, I should say, the village board and the standing committees. And we should. It's just better communication. You'll get more participation, and that's what we want. So I'm all for it. And I think that what we need at this point is we already have somebody that's doing our village board meeting and the standing committees, or a couple of them. What does it cost us to continually have that person be in charge of that? I call it the AV room because I don't know what else, IT room, recording room, and see what the cost is. What's the incremental difference? We spend tons of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars on people coming in and supporting us for all kinds of different consulting. So this is something that we can all utilize, and it's a benefit. So I think we need to get some real numbers to look at.
If I could just add something, so the issue with Spectrum over at the senior center is that there is a residential account tied to the senior center that hasn't been active since 2021. So we're currently working with our rep to get that sorted out. So we have not paid that bill because we don't believe we're responsible for that bill. So just for clarity there.
Okay, that makes sense. But they're using it.
They're not using that account. We have a separate Spectrum account that we're up to date with on our bills. It's that
Okay.
other account that we're trying to work through with our rep.
Good to know. They're not going to completely shut us down. Thank you, Matt.
Yep.
We're getting a little short on time, but I just have a couple comments. When we were setting up for this meeting, I asked Administrator Kreklo if we could get some data from Spectrum. And when you think about, this is a very narrow group, but a group that watches intently all our meetings. All right. So channel 25 is only available if you have a cable box and you have the right package, period. If you're streaming Spectrum, it does not broadcast. So that's a narrow group. I don't know what that number is. It is a possibility that it's not cost benefit in order to continue channel 25. Now, with spending that money 2 years ago on the box, I would say we've got a couple more years to broadcast yet before we should get rid of it. And then we can take a look at it. I agree with broadcasting every meeting possible. If we can do that, Park and Rec is another one that I think would be beneficial. This didn't happen before 2021 in the upgrade, but being spoiled now becomes the norm. So all of a sudden, now we want the streaming and we want the recording, and I think it's beneficial. The YouTube channel is something I go to often and watch these. I don't know what the offset would be, or if we would have enough staffed resources to do that for every meeting. That's something I think that we'd have to look at and see what the cost is on that. So those are my comments. Anything else? All right, we are going to move on to the reports first. So we'll go to accounts payable. We're going to go through these pretty quick, I hope, except for the director's report. Anything in AP we want to discuss? Okay. Budget to actual.
I do have a couple questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Matt, on page 166, like under non-departmental.
Yep.
I noticed, and in several of them, that postage and telephone are way over.
Yes. So for those, we need to do a journal entry to allocate those out to the department, and we just have not done that yet.
Okay. And then also on there under village board, there's like $1,022.28 in overtime. What is overtime for the village board?
Our meeting at midnight.
No, that is the
I didn't
time.
get the check.
Yeah, that is the time Brenton spends in the back working on the aviation system for those meetings.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank you.
That plays in nicely, doesn't it?
what time period was that? Was that a week?
No, that'd be year to date.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, any other questions on budget to actual? Payroll. All right, move on to contracts.
I'll just mention for the contract, we're working with departments to review all the open contracts from 2024 and early in 2025 to make sure that these contracts are actually open, or we should close them in the system and
Okay.
clean it up.
Good idea.
When will you have that information? Next month or?
Yep, I sent it out to mostly the Department of Public Works a couple of weeks ago for them to review it. And then when I spoke with the director a few days ago, he said we'd get to me within the next week or
I
so.
would think they'd need it for the budgeting
Right.
session too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. So then our report will be updated as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on to the director's report. Matthew?
I have nothing too exciting to share. The biggest change is that you would have expected the RFPs to be on tonight's agenda, just based on the volume of RFPs we received. Staff did not have the time to review all of them in an adequate manner. So I informed all the folks who submitted an RFP that we'll be bringing a recommendation to the GGF committee in August. I believe overall we received more than 15 between the two. We received quite a few for the investment services and about 5 or 6 for the advisory services.
All right, committee, any questions of Matthew?
No, utility went fine.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We will move back on to item F, market adjustment to the salary of the finance director. The committee may enter into closed session per Wisconsin statute 19.85, paragraph 1, subparagraph C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the government body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, and they may reconvene into open session to take such action as it deems appropriate. There are some items that we can, or there's options on this one. We can stay in open session completely. We can get background information from Administrator Kreklow and then go into closed session if we want, or we can go directly into closed session.
Well, I make a motion to stay in open session since most of the information is right here.
I don't think we need a motion to stay in open.
Okay.
Only if we go to closed session.
Okay. I'm okay.
Okay, sounds good. Administrator Kreklow.
Okay, let me start by saying this is something that does need village board approval. So whatever the committee does recommend tonight would have to go to the village board. The finance director is one of the positions listed by ordinance as salary being set by the village board. So it would have to go there. I am requesting a pay increase for the finance director position. The position, and I've first of all listed the finance director salary for neighboring communities, and you can see that the average is 115,000 compared to the finance director here in Germantown at $87,173. In addition, there were some other positions that were posted around the state for a finance director position, and we looked at what the starting salary for those jobs were, and that was $101,613. So I think the data shows that our finance director is paid significantly under market. And I know that there were some comments about the number of years of experience and so on. But actually, in the intention of this request is to try to keep our finance director. And while I would say that organizations definitely like to see people with experience, the number of years isn't necessarily the thing that other jurisdictions are looking for when they're looking to hire someone. And Matthew's experiences here in his time with the village have really given him a lot of very valuable experience that others would place a high dollar amount on. And included in that are the improvements that he's made to the year-end close and annual financial reporting process. Probably most notably the implementation of the Tyler Munis system and his familiarity with that software. I'm pretty confident that there are not many finance directors in the state of Wisconsin who know Tyler Munis as well as Matthew does. And it's one of the most commonly used financial management software systems by municipal governments in the state of Wisconsin. His experience with leading the budget process and the budget issues that he's worked through here with the public safety referendum, some of the work he's done on the tax increment districts, the capital improvements program that we've had in place, the rate increase from water and sewer, I think are all things that are very valuable experiences that make him someone that, that number one, we want to keep in Germantown, and number two, would make him very attractive to other municipalities. And I think that's something we need to take into consideration when considering the increase that I'm recommending.
All right, that's the background. Committee comments, questions?
We do the motion first?
Do we do the motion first?
Does it matter?
Yeah.
Oh. I'll make a motion for discussion to approve the salary increase that's being proposed.
I'll second for discussion.
All right, we have a motion, discussion.
Is there enough money in this year's budget to cover this increase?
Yes.
Okay. I'm having a hard time with this just because we've already been told we're gonna have a $600,000 deficit. And when I was at the rec department meeting last week, part of the director's report is that all departments are being asked to reduce their seasonal and part-time staff by 5%. And for them, it equates to about $17,000. So if we're asking, I think that's gonna hit the library and the rec department harder again. So I just have a hard time wanting to increase this right now instead of trying to work it into next year's budget.
But first, if I can say one, just a correction, I think, to what was presented to the Park and Rec Commission. Departments were asked to make a 5% reduction to their non-salary budgets. So not to their part-time staff or any of that. So I think there might have been a little bit of confusion on what was presented there.
Yes, because their understanding is they have to cut their staff from what they talked about at the meeting.
That was not the direction they were given.
Okay.
Regarding the upcoming budget season, it's going to be awfully hard to close that gap without a qualified finance director. And I would say that if if we don't have, if we were to lose Matthew to another municipality, we would have to pay significantly more than what I'm recommending to replace him with someone who's able to do the same work that he's doing for the village. You know, I think probably something more along the lines of what you're seeing, you know, the other communities in Washington County pay their finance directors. So, I understand, and you know, the concern about the budget. I'm concerned about it too, but I think that maintaining and preserving the critical staff is an important part of figuring out ways to balance the budget without with having minimum impacts on residents. So that's why I'm making this recommendation.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Not to me, no.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be echoing what Trustee Cutts said. The timing couldn't be worse, and I was at the senior center, of course, for the advisory committee, and this was on the Park and Rec report for the director's report, because the director of Park and Rec is in charge of the senior center. So making cuts to a department that actually brings in revenue just doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any common sense. It is a service for all of our residents. If you can't find an activity at Park and Rec, I think you're not looking hard enough. And also at the library. These are departments that rely heavily on part-time people and seasonal, possibly. So the way it was written was that that was the expectation, to reduce those people, to reduce staff. So no matter how or what you said to the department heads for reducing 5%, how can we say that to the department heads and then start giving salary increases? I think the timing is wrong. We need to wait till the budget season. And, kudos to Matt for making headway in the department and stuff like that. But sometimes we have to make up $600,000. You're the one that gave us the good news, Steve. So how are we going to do it? How are we going to do it? How did we get there? And how are we going to get back? So I don't even know. If you were going to find this money, where would you find the money to give an increase to any of the staff at this time of the year?
Well, I think one of the response that I would say is that if you were running a business and you had to cut back, one of the things that you would make sure that you would do, that businesses do regularly, is make sure that they keep their key people. And I think keeping the key people who are able to make the organization run is critical, even in difficult budget times. We have a $600,000 budget deficit this year. Next year, we will have a budget deficit, and the year after that, we will have a budget deficit. We have a structural budget deficit that is driven by the fact that our expenses go up faster than net new construction. Net new construction does not keep up with inflation. It does, and so every year we have a budget deficit. And having a finance director who's able to manage through that year after year is critical to maintaining services to the public.
If we have a budget deficit every year, I can't believe in the history. Is that the history of the Village of Germantown that we've had?
Yes, it has. Every year since I've been here.
Okay, since you've been here, but what about the history?
I would say going back to 2012 when the levy limits were put in place, that this has been the case. I know Trustee Miller has been here
It's pretty much
back
that.
that far, but I think that's probably been the case.
Yeah, it starts out that way and, Act 10 had many good things, but Act 10 really limits what
Right.
you can do as a municipality. Steve is
Here we
right.
are.
But
We have
we
to
start
get out
off
of it.
with one and yeah, most of the time we have to cut because there are fixed costs that have to be done,
Yeah.
operating costs, right?
Right.
And there isn't much fluff. So we'll find a way.
Right.
So my comments. I take a little bit different tact on this. First off, you want to retain talent. And Matt's a key personnel here. He's one of our key persons. He's done a great job with putting Tyler Munis in and doing that. And to find another finance director would be very difficult. I'm not saying impossible because everybody's replaceable, right? But it sure would be a lot easier to retain. I'm okay with the increase and I'm going to vote yes. It's going to go to the village board anyway. It's going to go most likely, hearing yours, with a negative recommendation, and then we will have further discussion there on this. But Matthew, whatever happens, I want to thank you for your time here and your services. Tyler Munis was not an easy thing to implement, and you did a great job.
Thank you.
So any further discussion? Otherwise, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, the recommendation will go against 2-1 to the village board. All right, and that finishes all our agenda items tonight. So we will close our meeting out at 7:09 p.m. Please give us about 5 minutes, 10 minutes to set up for the village board. Thank you.